Void.net. In Praise of Johnny Appleseed by Vachel Lindsay. Edited and read by The Voice Before the Void. In the days of President Washington, the glory of the nations, dust and ashes, snow and sleet, and hay and oats and wheat, blew west, crossed the Appalachians, found the glades of rotting leaves, the soft deer pastures in the forest. Colts jumped the fence, snorting, ramping, snapping, sniffing, with gastronomic calculations, crossed the Appalachians, the east walls of our citadel, and turned to gold-horned unicorns, feasting in the dim volunteer farms of the forest. Stripedest, kickingest kittens escaped, caterwauling Yankee Doodle Dandy, renounced their poor relations, crossed the Appalachians, and turned to tiny tigers in the humorous forest. Chickens escaped from farmyard congregations, crossed the Appalachians, and turned to amber trumpets on the ramparts of our Hoosiers' nest and citadel, millennial heralds of the foggy, mazy forest. Pigs broke loose, scrambled west, scorned their loathsome stations, crossed the Appalachians, turned to roaming, foaming wild boars of the forest. The smallest, blindest puppies toddled west, while their eyes were coming open, and, with misty observations, crossed the Appalachians, barked, barked, barked at the glowworms and the marshlights and the lightning bugs, and turned to ravening wolves of the forest. Crazy parrots and canaries flew west, drunk on Maytime revelations, crossed the Appalachians, and turned to delirious flower-dressed fairies of the lazy forest. Haughtiest swans and peacocks swept west, and, despite soft derivations, crossed the Appalachians, and turned to blazing warrior souls of the forest, singing the ways of the Ancient of Days, and the old Continentals in their ragged regimentals, with bards' imaginations, crossed the Appalachians. And a boy blew west, and with prayers and incantations, and with Yankee Doodle Dandy, crossed the Appalachians, and was young John Chapman. Then, Johnny Appleseed, chief of the fastnesses, dappled and vast, in a pack on his back and a deer-hide sack, the beautiful orchards of the past, the ghosts of all the forests and the groves, in that pack on his back, in that talisman sack. Tomorrow's peaches, pears, and cherries, tomorrow's grapes and red raspberries, seeds and tree souls, precious things, feathered with microscopic wings, all the outdoors the child heart knows, and the apple green, red, and white, son of his day and his night, the apple allied to the thorn, child of the rose, porches untrod of forest houses, all before him all day long, Yankee Doodle his marching song, and the evening breeze joined his psalms of praise as he sang the ways of the Ancient of Days. Leaving behind august Virginia, proud Massachusetts, and proud Maine, planting the trees that would march and train on in his name to the great Pacific, like Burnham would to Dunsinane, Johnny Appleseed swept on, every shackle gone, loving every sloshy brake, loving every skunk and snake, loving every leathery weed. Johnny Appleseed, master and ruler of the unicorn ramping forest, the tiger mewing forest, the rooster trumpeting, boar foaming, wolf ravening forest, the spirit-haunted, fairy-enchanted forest, stupendous and endless, searching its perilous ways in the name of the Ancient of Days. Hear him asking his friends the eagles to guard each planted seed and seedling. While the late snow blew from bleak Lake Erie, scourging rock and river and reed, for Johnny Chapman, Johnny Appleseed, as though his heart were a wind-blown wheat sheaf, as though his heart were a new-built nest, as though their heaven house were his breast, in swept the snowbirds singing glory. And I hear his bird heart beat its story. Hear yet how the ghost of the forest shivers. Hear yet the cry of the gray old orchards, dim and decaying by the rivers, and the timid wings of the bird ghosts beating. By the hour of dawn he was proud and stark, went forth to live on roots and bark, slept in the trees, while the years howled by. Calling the catamounts by name, and buffalo bulls no hand could tame, slaying never a living creature, joining the birds in every game, with the gorgeous turkey gobblers mocking, with the lean-necked eagles boxing and shouting, sticking their feathers in his hair, turkey feathers, eagle feathers, trading hearts with all beasts and weathers, he swept on, winged and wonder-crested, bare-armed, bare-footed, and bare-breasted. The maples, shedding their spinning seeds, called to his apple seeds in the ground. Vast chestnut trees with their butterfly nations called to his seeds without a sound. And the chipmunk turned a somerset, and the foxes danced the Virginia reel. Hawthorn and crabthorn bent rain-wet, and dropped their flowers in his night-black hair. And the soft fawns stopped for his perorations, and his black eyes shone through the forest gleam, and he plunged young hands into new-turned earth, and prayed dear orchard boughs into birth. And he ran with the rabbit and slept with the stream. And he ran with the rabbit and slept with the stream. And he ran with the rabbit and slept with the stream in the days of President Washington. Hear the hoofbeats of deer in the snow, and see by their track bleeding footprints we know. See conventions of deer go by. The bucks toss their horns, the fuzzy fawns fly. Faint hoofbeats of fawns long gone from respectable pasture and park and lawn, and heartbeats of fawns that are coming again when the forest once more is the master of men. Long, long after, when settlers put up beam and rafter, they asked of the birds who gave this fruit, who watched this fence till the seeds took root, who gave these boughs. They asked the sky, and there was no reply. But the robin might have said, to the farthest west he has followed the sun, his life and his empire just begun. Self-scourged like a monk with a throne for wages, stripped like the iron-souled Hindu sages, draped like a statue, in strings like a scarecrow, his helmet, hat, and old tin pan, but worn in the love of the heart of man, more sane than the helm of Tamerlane, hairy Ainu, wild man of Borneo, Robinson Crusoe, Johnny Appleseed. And the robin might have said, sowing he goes to the far new west, with the apple the sun of his burning breast, the apple allied to the thorn, child of the rose. Washington buried in Virginia, Jackson buried in Tennessee, young Lincoln brooding in Illinois, and Johnny Appleseed, priestly and free, knotted and gnarled, past 70 years, still planted on in the woods alone. Ohio and young Indiana, these were his wild altar stone, where still he burnt out flesh and bone. At last his own trees overtook him. At last his own trees hurried past him. Many cats were tame again. Many ponies tame again. Many pigs were tame again. Many canaries tame again. And the real frontier was his sunburnt breast. From the fiery core of that apple, the earth, sprang apple amaranths divine. Love's orchards climbed to the heavens of the west, and snowed the earthly sod with flowers. Farmhands from the terraces of the blest danced on the mists with their ladies fine. And Johnny Appleseed laughed with his dreams, and swam once more the ice-cold streams. And the doves of the spirit swept through the hours with doom calls, love calls, death calls, dream calls. And so once more his youth began, Johnny Appleseed. Then the sun was his turned-up broken barrel, out of which his juicy apples rolled, thumping across the gold, an angel in each apple that touched the forest mold, each red, rich, round, and bouncing moon that touched the forest mold. He saw the fruits unfold, and all our expectations in one wildflower-written dream, confusion and death sweetness and a thicket of crab-thorns, heart of 100 midnights, heart of the merciful morns. Heaven's boughs bent down with their alchemy, perfumed airs and thoughts of wonder. And the dew on the grass and his own cold tears were one in brooding mystery. Though death's loud thunder came upon him, though death's loud thunder struck him down, the boughs and the proud thoughts swept through the thunder, the vista of 10,000 years, flower-lighted and complete. Hear the lazy weeds murmuring, bays and rivers whispering. Listen to the eagles screaming, calling, Johnny Appleseed, Johnny Appleseed, there by the doors of old Fort Wayne. In the four-poster bed Johnny Appleseed built, autumn rains were the curtains, autumn leaves were the quilt. He laid him down sweetly and slept through the night, there by the doors of old Fort Wayne.